Hello, I am Mark Eric Johnson. Many of you on Facebook probably know me from my posts, and more or less, my dog Luke. I just wanted to do a video about the Ghent Town Board meeting last night, and we had a great turnout of about 100 citizens from all over Columbia County who are very concerned about this company called TCI. I'm sure everybody local has read about it. And those of you out in the country or around the world who aren't familiar with it, I would just recommend that you Google fire in West Ghent Industrial Park. There you see an awesome picture of a plant that, I don't know, I guess they break down PCBs. That's the quickest way I can tell you. But last night we actually got to talk to our planning board, our town board, and they actually had their engineer. So that's how the meeting started, with their engineer speaking. He told us about the cleanup and how 50% done, and that so far there hasn't been anything that's very dangerous or blah blah blah. And then he was asked a question by many people, and he didn't have really any answers. Turns out he's not an environmental engineer. He is hired by the town as an engineer, and his firm does work for our town. But he himself was not an environmental engineer, so all these reports he talked about, and he's kind of wishy-washy what was in there, because it's more than just about PCBs. So anyway, one of the questions one of our people in the panel audience asked him was, so who pays for all this? And well, come find out, not only does he work for we the people of Ghent and representing Columbia County, understand this is a county issue, not just Ghent. That he also gets paid by the company that blew up, called TCI. So I know in court of law, if you can't really represent two things at once. So obviously there is a conflict of interest. As honest as a guy as he is, he's working for TCI, who's a company that we, the town, are not happy with and are not trusting. We don't trust them. I don't think we really want our engineer working for both sides. One or the other, not both sides. So that's what we found out last night. That's reason to be concerned right there. The other questions that were asked, myself, I commended the board. I shared with them that we elected them to serve us and protect us, from businesses and things coming into our community that might be hazardous to us, and they do many other things. But we assume they're watching out for our health, and if business doesn't meet like our local agricultural environment, and a business like TCI, who has a history since the 80s in towns south of us, across the river from us, and somehow they end up in Ghent. Ghent, unfortunately, has the history of being very kind to not so welcome industries. But they were here, and they were functioning. But the other concern with them was, with the board, was that they're there to protect and serve us. And we also were concerned about the volunteer firemen who responded to this place, and come to find out this company hadn't told them they actually had some materials in there that weren't supposed to be in there, and potentially we could have lost up to 50 firemen, local firemen, fathers, uncles, brothers, etc. It was really neglectful of this company. And in addition to that, we had somebody else. I mean, we all know volunteer firemen, and it wasn't their fault what happened, and we actually care about their health, and God only knows the truth, whether they'll be okay. But they didn't have the right equipment, and their equipment, unlike what we found out, the troopers that responded, were demanded by their higher ups to turn in their uniforms, and they were burned, destroyed. local sheriffs, they were also supposed to, but somehow the hierarchy didn't get it down to the sheriffs who were on the scene. So some of them actually washed their clothes with their family clothes. Not very cool. But the firemen, they still have their uniforms, and they aren't aware of that. And it's kind of funny when it's not funny or sad that the state would insist that their guys burn their uniforms and give them new uniforms. Kind of makes you wonder. But anyway, that's a side story. So we are worried about our volunteers all around the county. I mean, every volunteer, we have factories here, and we don't have the proper foam in our county to put out chemical fires. We have an A foam, but that's water based. So in this particular case, we needed something called a B foam, and to put out fire, or to make it not go. It ended up being that the firemen do what firemen do and spray water on it, and the chemical that they didn't know that was in there was called sodium. Sodium and water react, boom. Definitely watch the video and you'll see what it created. And in the video you'll see one, but there were about 8 or 10 of those during the night, and black smoke for a good 12 hours. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, so we got other people in town who showed up, or in the county, who had background in law and environmental and stuff of that nature, and they shared this with the board. You know, the board has a lot of information to go with now. We had somebody who did a FOIL to get public records from the town about their initial permission that, you know, what was supposed to be at this place when they initially moved to our town and county. And there are at least 4 or 5 citations that our town should and hopefully will pursue against TCI. TCI plans on building again, but you know, as we dig a little bit more about this company, just in the community, one thing about small communities, people know people, people run into people, and eventually, if you're dark and have a secret like TCI holds, many of them, the truth comes out. And we found out many things, and it was shared to the board last night. Some things that weren't shared, and some questions weren't asked, but we can save them for the next one. I just highly recommend that everybody in Columbia County, the newspaper article was a joke. The Register Star article was a joke. The guy quoted the engineer who works for both places, town and Ghent, and he represents TCI. And that's who the reporter quoted most in the paper. He didn't do any of real reporting and talk about what I said, what this other great lady who spent her own money to get these records from the town. You know, we're going to watch and we're going to be on top of this. The more people that keep coming out, the more our town board will understand how serious we are about this company being held accountable. You know, none of us know the truth. They tell us things, but so be it. What we do know is that this company had many violations, and they should be cited for them, and before they even think about asking for permits to rebuild a facility in our town.